Get ready to be inspired by Miss Chu. That's all I've got to say.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
Welcome back, listeners, to Australia's, if not the world's, #1 small business marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but you, so much more importantly, are a very, very motivated small business owner ready to crank out some great marketing so that you can build that baby of yours into the empire that it deserves to be. And we are brought to you by the very good folk at Net Registry. And I also want to welcome everyone within the Flying Solo community. I am so excited about today's episode. I'm excited about every episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, but I have just knocked out an interview with Miss Chu, who owns a chain, isn't the right word, but I'll say chain of Vietnamese tuck shops in Melbourne, Sydney and London. And I don't know, it was just one of those interviews that left me singing. I'm feeling good about life. So more on that in a minute. I am also going to cover, on a less happy note, a contentious discussion about the way I treat listener feedback that is happening inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum at the moment. And I am going to share some listener feedback because there is so much of it wonderfully stacking up that I just have to do that. So we've got a very big show. Strap in.
Small Business Big Marketing with Tim Reid.
Now, are you keen to get your online marketing sorted? Oh, sorry, Brian. It's part of the language now. One complaint I hear from small business owners a lot is that they can't catch a break with their online marketing. They'll be having the worst experience with their website developer, the site will keep crashing, the design is nothing like they wanted. I tell them they need to talk to Net Registry because they will get their online marketing sorted. You don't need to be a pro when it comes to the internet because they are. And they make it so simple and straightforward, this whole online marketing thing. Getting you a domain name, your website hosted, whatever you need to be able to market your business online effectively. Google AdWords, SEO, all that type of stuff. And better yet, because Net Registry are proud sponsors of the show and want to see small business owners succeed, you can take advantage of some fantastic exclusive listener deals. If you head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, click on the Net Registry banner, those deals will be revealed. They're really good. They're about SEO, AdWords, and they are incredibly inexpensive. Gotta love Net Registry. I hope you do too. They make this show possible. Thanks, guys. Now, this interview that I am about to share with you, it's not an interview, it's a fireside chat. They're all fireside chats. I don't do interviews. This fireside chat is with Nahji Chu, a.k.a. Miss Chu. Now, she is a highly creative and successful owner of Miss Chu Vietnamese tuck shops, and they are a very, very cool little business. Go and check out misschu.com.au. So that's misschu.com.au just to see how cool this business is. Check this. Founded in 2008, 2009. She now has 8 stores, one in London, one in the Opera House in Sydney. Turnover, $25 million. 280 staff already. And a brilliantly strong brand. You know, in 1975... Miss Chu, or Nahji as I started to call her, that changes, listen to the interview, escaped a brutal dictatorship in Laos and arrived in Australia by boat 3 years later. So this is such a beautiful story of struggle, of determination, of passion and creativity. So excited to bring this to you. And I started off by asking Nahji what to call it.
I keep it pretty simple, and I answer to Miss Chu.
Right. What happens if and when you get married?
It's Miss Chu because as a Vietnamese lady and as part of my culture, the woman always retains her maiden name. So I'll forever be Miss Chu.
You will be?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
If I marry a Mr. Backer, I'll be Chu Backer.
Insert boom tish. I love that.
So I'm still looking out for Mr. Backer.
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm going to make it now my life's mission to find you Mr. Backer.
Well, or Packer. James Packer will do, because I wouldn't mind being a Chu Packer.
Yeah, or we could find someone called E-Gum.
Chu E-Gum, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, this is deteriorating.
Well, this is the great thing about having a surname like Chu.
Yeah, exactly right.
Limit.
You can have a lot of fun. We clearly, and I want to come to this shortly, but you have a lot of fun with your native language, your mother tongue, so to speak. I love the way you've integrated that into your brand. But let's come to that in a minute, because there's many people listening from around the world, Miss Chu, and I'm going to call you that. It feels a little bit weird, but I'm going to go with it. Mm-hmm. There's many people around the world listening in who haven't been to one of your tuck shops.
Yeah.
So can you explain?
So my real name's Nahji Chu, and surname being Miss Chu, C-H-U.
Correct.
Yeah.
And how lucky was that?
Pretty lucky.
Really lucky. Some things are meant to be.
Exactly.
Can you explain?
It's like people say, if you get dealt lemons, sell lemonade.
Exactly right. Always the opportunist. Did you sit there at some point go, well, my surname is a verb for eating, so I'm just going to start a cafe?
At one point, I kind of was toying around with the idea, and we were having a joke about it when I was sewing. I was 19 years old working in fashion, and a friend of mine said, imagine if you had a catering business, because, I mean, I worked in catering anyway, and even when I was 19, I was supplementing my meagre income by doing some catering work. And a friend of mine was joking around, and he said, if you had your own catering business, you could, like, your tagline could be choose, choose, choose.
He was nearly there.
Yeah.
He missed it, though. It was right in front of him. It was Miss Chu every day of the week.
Exactly.
I'm just thinking, God, imagine if I'd gone down the road based on my surname. My surname's Reid, so, like, I'd be like a librarian or something. Or maybe a bookshop owner. A good Reid. A good Reid is what I'd call the business.
Yeah, you could be a bookshop owner, for sure. Although they're not doing that well these days.
They're not, are they? What a pity.
It could be an online reading platform.
Yeah. Can you? And I'd love you to introduce some kind of bookshop to your tuck shops, because it's a part of our society that's now missing.
Yeah, I mean, so your name's Reid, R-E-A-D.
It's R-E-I-D.
R-E-I-D.
But I'd change it if I did start a bookshop. I'd go to wherever I go to change my name and kind of get that sorted. Hey, listen, more about you. Many people are listening going, what are these two people talking about? But explain the experience of going to one of your tuck shops.
Okay, so I've branded myself Miss Chu, M-I-S-C-H-U, and a lot of people spell it with, with two words. But I've turned it into a brand by joining the Miss Chu into one word, so it's Miss Chu. Mm-hmm. I've called it a tuck shop because the first store I opened happens to be right next door to a private school. And I just thought it was so cute that, come 3:15, there'd be like a swag of schoolgirls lining up. And that was basically the impetus to start calling myself a tuck shop.
Great.
And it was also because I was getting a lot of foodies coming to line up at Miss Chu, and I thought it's inevitable that a foodie writer, like what do you call them?
Well, I was going to say gourmand, but like a critic.
A critic would come along and start giving me a score, which is something I really didn't want to do, because there are there's no indoor seating. It literally is on the street, so therefore, hence the street food, the Vietnamese street food element of my brand. Mm-hmm.
And that's the same for every one of your venues, is it? It's just like
a tuck shop.
Every single one. Yep.
Every single one now is called a tuck shop, and that's really. It's about me keeping the food honest. I'm not about winning awards. I'm not about fine dining. It literally is Miss Chu. I started as a caterer, and then I turned it into a retail experience because there was such a massive demand for it. On my first site, people were banging down the doors, literally, so much so I had to replace the door because it got so loose after trading there as a caterer for the first year. And then a lot of these people got really frustrated because I wasn't open to the public. So after 1 year of trading on this site in Darlinghurst, I opened up the shop to locals. And within the first few weeks, there were people lining up at the, people lining up at this window. So I literally opened up the window and put a bamboo awning out the front to draw attention, and it just went skyrocketing from day one.
Can I, you know what, because there's no shortage, and I've heard you speak about this, there's no shortage of Vietnamese restaurants in this world, right? But what you created, what you did differently, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was a real experience?
Yeah, what I created was, look, there are a lot of Vietnamese restaurants in Australia. My auntie has a couple of Vietnamese restaurants. I grew up working for her in her restaurants. But what I found was missing was the storytelling and the history behind the Vietnamese diaspora in Australia, the cultural element. You know, like Australia says, we're so multicultural. And what they're really referring to is we're multicultural because we have a gamut of multicultural foods. What they're not referring to is the fact that there are lots of multicultural communities in Australia, which basically means there are lots of cultural elements to Australia, and that is the culture and the politics of Australia is very varied, and we need to celebrate that. And what I was finding about Australia was that we weren't celebrating these cultural elements. We were celebrating and we were loving their foods, but we left the culture behind. And what I was saying and rebelling against society was, hey, if you love my food, I'm afraid you're going to have to love me as well, because I'm a Vietnamese Australian. And did you know that I came here as a refugee? And did you know that Australia was also built on the back of other refugees and migrants? So why is it that we're having such a massive media presence and a stupid dialogue about the negativity of migrants and refugees in this country? So that's where the branding of Miss Chu came from. It basically was saying, hey, it's time for us to start celebrating Vietnamese food. So not only was it just a beautiful name and a celebration of my surname and the fact that it was a verb and it meant eating, what I then went to do was I put my refugee visa on the front page of my menu. So you were forced to look at this image, which was quite beautiful, and it's actually, it's a literal scan of my refugee visa, which allowed me to enter in 1978. And then if you flip to the back, it says Miss Chu visa menu. So I really was trying to push the refugee and the visa element to the business. I wasn't a brand back then. This is, mind you, this is 2009. I'd only just started the business. And then what I then went to do was I went, okay, let's now turn to the face, which was just me on that visa, because the visa is actually my father, my two brothers, and me. And then I went, let's now just take my face and pull that to the forefront and turn that into an actual logo. So now it's a very strong and recognisable face.
Yeah, it sure is.
When you see it on repetition, it becomes a brand. And, you know, I put colour and movement to it. The experience of coming to Miss Chu really is about lining up for your food. It's very fast-paced. There's always funky music playing, so it gives you a very fun and vibey experience.
You know, as you're speaking, in one of my family, we often go to a Vietnamese restaurant up in Abbotsford in Melbourne, and I look at those places now, just in this conversation, and thinking they've all westernised themselves. The food's Vietnamese, I guess it's traditional Vietnamese. Maybe it's been westernised, but as a venue, it's just a Western venue. It's just like tables and chairs, and there's nothing really outside of the people that's really truly a cultural experience. And that's your point of difference, isn't it? Exactly. My point of difference is definitely that. You really get the sense of I could be anywhere in Asia right now. Although, you know, there is that modern design element, which is a nod to the Vietnamese streetscape and the alleyways of Vietnam. Yeah. I did I digress, but I was in Ho Chi Minh last year, and I did the coolest food tour on the back of a motorbike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
this is what I'm doing right now. Yeah,
it was with XO Tours, and it was a marketing. I've used it as a marketing case study in my keynotes. Where, God, it was brilliant. And we went for 6 hours to all the different. I think it's called precincts.
Yeah,
and tried all the different foods and some of those back alleys, and your ability to bring that back. I mean, well done. I mean, just to be so. Just to honour where you've come from in such a strong way. We don't see, there's not enough experiences in the way businesses deliver their offer. And, you know, listeners have heard me say so often, you know, there's no shortage of marketing blokes, there's no shortage of dentists, of plumbers, of masseurs, and it's how we take our offer to market.
It's always the one that, has the story and the authenticity that stands out.
Absolutely.
So like you were just saying about the Vietnamese tour, I've just devised a misguided culinary tour of Vietnam.
Misguided?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, exactly. So a play on words is important. It makes, you know, like, I mean, branding and marketing has to be one word that stays in someone's mind.
Yeah.
And then it always has to have a tagline. Okay, so the tagline emphasises and reiterates what your business does.
Yeah.
Well,
give us your tagline for your delivery service, because I love it.
So it's Miss Chu, you ling, we bling.
Yeah.
It's controversial. It's a play on words. Some people think it's racist when it's not actually at all. It's breaking down stereotypes faster than a historian could, or a politician, or a lobbyist. And, you know, it's basically said on the back of my name, the person, and it also leads you to the website that always puts it into context. It's a Vietnamese woman, she does Asian food, and she brings you the food because she specialises in takeaways and home delivery.
I love how you have the whole use of language of it's not taking the mickey, because what I'm about to say on what you've written on your website says not to take the mickey. Let me explain. On your website, you say, we kindly request that you see this use of language by the Miss Chu brand as a humorous toying with, not a handing over of power to those who wish to mock Asian accents. And fully get that. But I love how you've kind of seen the humour in the way us Westerners maybe pronounce and imitate, you know, the Vietnamese language or any other Asian language, but you've kind of turned it around and just made it fun?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. You have to do that. It's the only way to get around a negative issue, like refugees, for example. You know, it's a negative issue right now, but I've really turned it on its head, and I've made the word refugee fun and sustainable and viable and, you know, quirky. And I've made people look at the word refugee with a heartbeat. I've put personality through the Vietnamese person and the Vietnamese brand. You know, so, you know, once upon a time people would look at a Vietnamese store and go, oh, you know, I love their food, but I hate their designs. You know, I hate the bright lights, I hate the music. I hate the dirtiness, and I've really corrected all of those issues, but still retained the culture, what it is to be a Vietnamese person. In fact, what I've done is I've celebrated and highlighted what it truly is to be a Vietnamese person in Australia. And I've celebrated it, you know, and I've asked people to come along for the ride and celebrate that with me, because, I mean, you know, my success is actually all on the back of my customers anyway.
I've got so many questions for you. But
we've only got half an hour.
I know.
Get to the crux of this half an hour, which is, what is it, marketing and branding?
Correct. Well, that's where I want to go. So another thing I've heard you say, no market research or business planning around this business. It's simply an extension of myself. Is that true?
It is absolutely true. I get out of bed and I'm me. I happen to be very good at marketing and branding.
You happen to be also highly creative.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So what do you say to, and you know, when you were asking me, you know, what are we going to talk about? And I said, well, you know, I just admire the way you've built this brand so much, and I see many small business owners that haven't had the courage to own an idea or to even have an idea.
Well, this is it. You just nailed it. You have to own it. That's the one most important, crucial element of marketing and branding, is to be a what would they say, a disturber?
Oh, yep, a disruptor.
A disruptor, yeah.
Yep.
Because disruptors make people notice, but disruptors also must have conviction and belief.
Yep.
And you need to own that belief and that disruptive message that you're doing. So you can't do it for the sake of marketing. You're doing it because you actually believe in it. So if you don't believe in your product, I mean, it's very, very difficult to sell a product unless you have absolute conviction in it.
So when you have an idea, Miss Chu, about, for example, like going back to the experience, I mean, tuck shop type venues, you apparently ordering is like putting a lunch order in at school.
Exactly.
So when you have an idea, like, it's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. We could, just like we used to do at school, write on a brown paper bag and hand it, wrap it up and put the money in it. And, so when you have an idea like that, which, in retrospect, in hindsight, that just makes sense. But when you first hear it, you go, well, that's a bit scary. No one does that.
Oh, that's the most amazing thing. That's a bit scary. No one does that. I find excitement in that. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
If no one's done it before, that's it. You have to do something no one's done before. That's where marketing and branding happens. You've got to absolutely make sure that no one's done it before, and then you go to work and make it a really strong thing.
Yeah.
You start putting an image to it that's really strong. You own that idea, and you say to the market, I am the originator of this idea, like I have done. I mean, look, it took a Vietnamese girl to come into this country and see the beauty in the name Tuck Shop. I've made the word tuck shop very famous and very trendy now. Do you know how many cafes there are right now opening up and they're calling themselves a tuck shop?
That's a Sydney thing. They copy up there.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing it in Melbourne as well.
Oh, are they?
But I don't claim to have invented the word tuck shop, but I will lay claim to being the first woman in Australia to have taken the tuck shop outside of the school zone and make it a very viable venture and turn the word tuck shop into a brand.
Yep. Yeah, and again, own that word.
And you own it. Yeah.
What about brand management, Miss Chu? Like how I've come from a corporate marketing background of 20 years, and it's like, brand managers are there. They're like the brand Nazi. You got to use that colour, and you got to use that font, you got to use that language, and you got to, do you stand over this and just make sure that, you're really strict?
There are two people in my office. Today there's only me, unfortunately, because my PA works for an animal shelter part-time because, she loves doing things like that. And then the other person who works in the marketing department is my graphic designer. And so we're the only two people who do brand management, marketing. I do my social media. And what we say to our staff is, don't come to work in those shoes because it's the wrong colour. Remember, we have a hue that we all abide to. And that is grey, white, green, black. Anything that's not within those hues will confuse the market. And it's very, very subtle. These nuances are really, really important. All of our marketing that goes out has a correct colour green. Everything is branded as a passport. Everything is branded as a visa. It's got stamps on it. So I say to my staff, when the look and feel of Miss Chu is travel, passports, visas, refugees, school, tuck shop. Okay, if you put all those elements together, you will have a strong brand.
Do you have some kind of induction, or do you obviously employ people who get it?
Look, it's gotten to a stage where we do have an induction manual. Definitely, but the business is only 5 years old, so I've been winging it right up until now, and I'm still winging it. Pardon the pun. I did say that I was planning on going into the travel industry, branding and marketing is that know what your product is and then know how you want it to look. You must be absolutely sure of that before you start releasing yourself into the market.
I often talk about the idea of building a brand is like, I use the analogy of like as business owners and brand builders, we're like Dr. Frankenstein in that we are building a monster, albeit a friendly monster, hopefully, but we can control what it looks like, what it wears, how it speaks, when it speaks.
I like the
analogy.
The analogy is very correct.
Yeah.
I mean, like the media, for example, the media loves to portray me as the Nazi. So whenever they interview me on TV or whatnot, they ask me to stand at the window and yell at customers.
Is that weird?
It's weird because I say to them, that's actually really not the brand. That's the person that you remember. And I know that sells and it rates, but it's not me. I'm actually a very kind soul. And I yell at people, and I used to yell at people because they didn't get me. They didn't get me because they thought that a Vietnamese person actually belongs out in Cabramatta. They thought that a Vietnamese person was more submissive than I was, and I was quite outspoken. They thought that a Vietnamese product should cost $3, whereas my rice paper rolls cost $6, which I thought was still quite inexpensive. My baguettes cost $8, and when they were like, but it's $4 out in Cabramatta. I'm like, well, go to Cabramatta and get a $4 baguette.
Yeah, that's right. And spend $10 in petrol.
Yeah, exactly, and it'll take you 2 hours to get there.
You launched in 2009, 5 years down the track, 8 stores, 1 in London, 1 in the Opera House, 25 million turnover, 280 staff. Tell me about the longest sleepless night you had in those last 5 years.
I probably can't say. I have had recently I'm suing somebody for a large sum of money. So I'm having long and sleepless nights right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's a business thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. So we can't go into that, but what about in bringing the business, maybe that is related to bringing the business to life, but early days, you started off with $1,200. I don't know how you start a business with that, like, well done to you. But
easy. You start small and let it grow organically.
Right. Reinvest the profits.
Well, literally, I started with $1,500 in my pocket. I left the bank and I went on a Vipassana meditation course for 10 days. I came out of those 10 days and decided that I was going to make rice paper rolls and wholesale them to caterers. I looked up on the internet and found the biggest caterer was actually at the Opera House. I rang up the executive chef and I said, "Hi, I'm new in town. I make rice paper rolls, canapé size. I'm really good at it and I'd like a meeting." And he said, "Love your conviction." So I went and saw him the next day with a box of samples and he said, "Love it. When can I have my first order?" And I said, "Tomorrow." And he said, "Where do you operate from?" And I just lied. I said, "I have a commercial kitchen." And he said, "Yep, done." I was making them from home in Balmain.
Oh, I love it.
And so his first order was 30 rolls, and the second order was 120 rolls. By the second week, he was ordering 900 units per day. 3 months down the track, he was ordering 1,500 units per day. And then by New Year's Eve, which was only 3 months after operating, I had 3 caterers call me. And overnight, on New Year's Eve, I was making 17,000 rolls within 8 hours. And that was only 3 caterers. So I'd grown within 3 months from an order of 30 units to 17,000 units. And then the first year's income was $90,000. The second year's income was from the shop that I had hired in Darlinghurst. That's 2009. So the first year was 2008 from home. So 2009 was when I went proper and hired a shop.
You got serious?
I got serious.
At what point did you tell the bloke at the Opera House that, hey, we haven't really got a commercial kitchen?
I never did. Never did. I just winged it. And I knew. But I just knew. I knew what HACCP was. I know that when you get to that stage, you have to have a HACCP license, which is Health Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points. And, I've come from hospitality. I've been a caterer in Melbourne. I have studied HACCP, and I have gone as far as you can go with health and hygiene. So I knew exactly what I was doing. I just needed to start from somewhere. And that's what I did. I started from a very small place and from home, and then just grew organically since then.
Oh, Miss Chu, I have so many listeners that either are stuck in the cubicle with a big business idea that they're dying to bring to market. I
could help them. I mean, I'm really good with names and how to brand.
I love naming too.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to start a naming business?
Yeah, I find excitement in that. Someone made a joke with me. I was doing a talk at a conference, and this guy put up his hand, and he said, "Yeah, but I'm disabled," and he had one arm. And what would you do if you were someone like me who's disabled, don't have much? And I said, well, clearly you speak really well. You can ask a question really well. You've obviously got brains. You came to this conference to listen to me speak. You put up your hand and asked a question. The only thing you don't have is an arm. And I said, well, why don't you sell arms? And he just stood there and laughed and went, sell arms. I said, yeah, sell weapons.
That's what I thought you meant. Yeah.
Just take the piss out of yourself and make it a marketing plan and turn a bad point into a really positive, strong point and really own it.
There's not enough humour in this world, Miss Chu.
Yeah. Humour with conviction and something that, a business has to have a heartbeat as well, don't forget. It has to make a difference to the world. Cookbook. I mean, Jesus, I don't have a cookbook. Does the world really need another cookbook?
Doesn't need another one. Do not do one.
We need another cookbook like we need another parking ticket.
Yeah. No, we're all out of cookbooks.
Unless it's got a purpose behind it.
Yeah, I agree.
That is, the purpose behind my next cookbook, and I'm still trying to get a publisher to agree with me, and I have found one. It took me 12 months for a publisher to agree that 5% of the profits has to go towards a philanthropic foundation that I believe in.
That was really a discussion? That's like a question. That's like, yeah, okay, fine. Next.
Yeah, well, so many of them said no way because as if your book's going to make a profit. And I said, well, I know it's not going to make a profit, but at least, what about 5% turnover? They said, no, that's way too much money. And I was like, Jesus, come on.
Oh, wow. You find another publisher. In fact, what you do is self-publish and then you will make a profit. Hello to all your publishers that I know.
Self-publishing was going to take too much work. So what I did in the end was I said that 5% of the proceeds of the book will go towards philanthropy and that'll come from my pocket. But 5% of the content of the book must have something that drives people to donate.
I don't want to finish this interview on a down note. I don't think it will be, but I'm fascinated to understand you had a tough childhood. That's an understatement. You arrived at Australia coming out of a Thai refugee camp, leaving your home country that was under a dictatorship. I mean, we don't have to go into great detail about what a dark place you and your family must have been in. How did you recover your sense of humour and maintain it even today when you reflect back on those times? And I ask that for the bloke in the wheelchair and for other people who are doing it tough.
I think when you go through trauma, people deal with recovery in different ways, and I think a lot of people use comedy to recover from a tragedy, and that's what I've done as well. I think comedy is really important. Comedy, I think, is probably one of the most powerful medicines one could have.
Oh, how good is a good laugh?
It's like taking an ecstasy. Well, I used to in my youth, but I can remember the sensation. Yeah. And there's nothing like having a good laugh. It really just cures everything.
Oh, it's just one of the
stomach up.
Yeah. Love getting the giggles, particularly when it's an uncontrollable and your shoulders start to shake and, it just becomes like,
everything works, all the muscles in your body work.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I can't wait to do, listeners, Miss Chu and I are doing a road show around Australia for Westpac in the coming weeks, so we're going to have a lot of fun. And I think we should come up with some names. Maybe we're going to call the business Sticky Names. All right?
Excellent.
You happy with that?
Fantastic.
And I don't know what we're going to name, but we'll name something. Maybe someone could send us in a request to name something.
For moments that are sticky, for sticky moments.
Yeah, that's right. For when you're stuck.
Yeah.
Love it. Hey, Miss Chu, I love your work, and you've shared some gold. with us, and I really appreciate that.
Thanks
and
for
I know
listening, everybody.
Yeah, good on you. And I know listeners are going to have a lot of comments, so if they do, I'll flick them your way, and you can.
By all means, do go to the website, and I answer all the emails. So invariably they'll come to me anyway.
Thank you, Miss Chu.
Great, thanks, Tim.
Wow, that's all I can say. I hope you enjoyed that fireside chat as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. Now, before I give you my top 3 learnings, as if there aren't more, I want to let you in on a little secret that smart business owners everywhere are onto. Have you got marketing materials lying around that need a little tweaking? Maybe the details on your business card need updating, or your logo needs altering. Maybe you need to change the colour of that beige shirt you accidentally wore in the photo shoot. No worries at all. That'll be $19 and it'll be done in less than an hour thanks to swiftly.com. Small design fixes fast, that is how they roll. You simply upload your artwork that needs fixing, tell them what needs doing, and boom, 1 hour and $19 later, it's done. Check them out at swiftly.com. That is SWIFTLY.com. Now, I don't know about you, but I could have listed... Well, I could have spoken to Miss Chu for a lot longer. Like, I'm talking hours. And B, there are a lot more than 3 learnings that I took from that chat with her. However, let me share my top 3. Number 1, disrupt the marketplace. I think that's brilliant, and there should be more of it. Number 2, have conviction of your ideas. Own your ideas and really lean into them. You know, you might, I love the fact, the third tip, by the way, is if no one's done it, then it's a good idea. So come up with an idea. Ask yourself if it's done before. If it hasn't been done before, then guess what? It might be a really good idea. And there'll be naysayers. There'll be people who say, oh, don't do that. It's never been done like that. That could be really good reason to do it. And you kind of consider some past guests of this show, and they've all disrupted the category. They've all challenged the category, and they've all gone against convention. So I love that. I reckon there should be more of it. And I really would love to hear what ideas came out of that fireside chat for you. So head over to the show notes of episode 186 at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and leave a comment, a feedback. Maybe there's a question you would have loved me to ask. I can always ask Miss Chu to come back and answer the question in the show notes. Maybe there's just something you want to feed back to me after that interview. I'd love to hear what you've got to say.
Small Business Big Marketing with Tim Reid. smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
Righto, so let's get stuck into this contentious issue that is listener reviews. As I mentioned a couple of episodes ago on Funny Business, I was talking to Griffo about the fact that, I got an email from one of my forum members actually saying, hey, Timbo, I don't like the way you get celebrities to read reviews that you get on iTunes. And I kind of thought, I think it's a bit fun, and Griffo and I agreed it was a bit fun, but inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, people are saying not so fun. And here's some of the comments that I'm getting. Meppy Man, who started the conversation, posted it in the forum, and he's got some support from the tribe. And Laurie's saying, I'm with you, Mark, but I don't hate them, but personally I prefer just having Timbo read them. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, at the back end of episodes, I would get people who can do celebrity voices to read reviews that I get on iTunes. And I thought it was a bit of fun, but clearly not. Who else have we got? Hop and Vine within the forum says, they don't really do much for me. I tend to skip them. I'm much more likely to listen to them when Tim reads them out. Sarah says, I love hearing the testimonials. I think they should continue, maybe even before the outro, but I definitely think that it's nice for Timbo to read them. Happy Chappy says, I would prefer to hear Timbo read them. Danny says the same. Sean says the same. Sean goes as far as saying the tribe has spoken, Timbo. So listen, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. The kind of overall feeling was that I was not giving them the love and attention they deserve, and was cheapening them by getting celebrity voiceovers to do it. So I am going to read some reviews, and I'm not going to read reviews just for the sake of, Timbo, love the show, you're ace. But I think there's learnings and confirmation in them for you, the listener, to see what other people think as well, and where other small business owners are at in their business. So this one is from Sherry, and she says, "Hey there, Timbo. Your ears must be burning on a regular basis. I love your podcast and anxiously wait for Tuesdays to roll around so that I can get inspired and enlightened." It's a big learning for me, actually, that whole Tuesday thing. I do my darndest to get a show out each Tuesday. And it's that regularity. So if you are into the habit of creating content, then the idea is to push something out on a regular basis. And if it's going to be a Friday afternoon, then put it out on a Friday afternoon. If it's going to be a Tuesday, put it out on a Tuesday. But what happens is you develop an expectation amongst your readership, your listening audience, your viewers, whatever it may be, and they start to look forward to it. And that's a good thing for your brand. Now, Cherie goes on to say, and I must tell at least 2 people a week about what I've learned. In fact, just emailing a link to one of your podcasts right now. That's great. Again, if you create useful, engaging content, people will share it, right? So compare that to advertising. No one rings you and says, "Oh, I love that ad you put in the local paper. Do you mind if I email it to my friends?" That doesn't happen. But if you create engaging content, it does. Cherie, back to Cherie. "After my brave jump into the world of the startup, I found you. Now I take you with me up Mount Tabor. Each morning with my lovely Newfie, a Boo." I'm guessing a Newfie's a dog, and I'm guessing a Boo is the name of Cherie's dog. So what a lovely thing to do. I join lots of people on their walks. I hear from emails and things. "You're awesome, you're great, you're generous, you're passionate about marketing, and it shows. Someday I hope to grow up and be just like you." That's all. Thank you, Cherie. And Cherie's from Shoe Fits Marketing. All right. Here is one from Brian. I touched on this email in last week's episode. I think it's quite funny. So this is from Brian Morris. Now, Brian says, "Hey, Tim, Brian Morris here. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for your great show. The content is brilliant and always right on the money." And there's always a but, though, isn't there? Hey, here comes the but. "I have been wondering lately if your sponsor, Net Registry, is a Pommy business, as you almost always use a Pommy accent when you say, 'Get your online marketing sorted.'" And that really annoys him. "I have to say, it's only a small grumble, but when you use the accent, I feel quite irritated, and I wonder if it could turn off some of their potential customers." I don't know, Brian. I think you're looking too far into it, mate. If I get a whole swag of emails saying, "Timbo, if you say sorted one more time in a Pommy accent, I'll stop listening to the show," then I will stop listening. But I'm not one for listening to the feedback of one and taking it to heart. It's when the majority speak, like they have in the forum about the way I have previously treated listener feedback. Brian very kindly goes on to say, "I listen to your podcast while I'm on my day job as a haul truck operator on the mines in Western Australia." I know a few listeners who are doing that kind of thing. "The great content is helping grow my little hobby business in my downtime, and I know in about 24 months' time it will be my full-time gig. I sincerely hope this email hasn't offended you, as it really is a brilliant podcast and your efforts are appreciated." Brian, I used to be easily offended. I used to have a soft skin. Now I've got a hard skin. Not offended at all, mate. Love the feedback. Love the fact that you reached out and made contact, because that's kind of what I like. You know, when you're talking behind a microphone in a dark, dingy room, it's nice to know that there are people out there who respond. This one is from Talita. I like this one from Talita. She says, "Hey, Timbo, love your podcast. You know, I'm about to review it on iTunes." Love that. Thank you, Talita. please, listeners, if you do get the opportunity, if there's one thing you did for me besides, send me to the tropics for a week, it would be to review my podcast on iTunes. Talita says, thank you for your endless enthusiasm. I too love woo-woo. Can't get enough of it. Yeah, sometimes I apologise when I get a bit woo-woo in my marketing advice, but hey, marketing's emotional. It's a little bit spiritual and sometimes rational. So stick with that. I'm so energised by your efforts, Timbo. I just bought a how's this, eh? I love this. I just bought a waterproof Bluetooth speaker so I can kick off my day with a Timbo boost while I'm getting ready in the bathroom. Oh, Talita. What a great name, Talita. It's kind of like an American Indian name. Maybe not. I'm probably completely wrong there. Talita's from 8 Seconds. Marketing for all businesses. Oh, another marketing consultant there, Talita. So thank you for those very, very kind words, everyone. So there it is. Some listener feedback read by me. And as I said previously, it is stacking up. If you want to send me some feedback or, comment, whatever, marketing question, you can go to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and hit the contact button and you can send me an email. I read them all. And if you feel like reviewing my show on iTunes, go and do that right now. Okay, team of motivated small business owners, that is about it. I'm recording this before I go to LA, although it will run after I'm back from LA. So I hope to share my experiences with you whilst over there. I'm giving a keynote talk on the Monday. I'm doing a couple of other things and then having a look around. I'm expecting to see some pretty amazing little marketing tips and tricks while I wander around California. So stay tuned for that. There is the Small Business Big Marketing Facebook, so you can head over there and I'll be posting some stuff on there. Join the forum. I'll be talking about what I'm seeing inside the forum. Love to see you inside there. You can join by going to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and clicking on the forum button. It's $1 for the first 7 days, so why wouldn't you? Big thanks to Net Registry for helping getting your online marketing sorted swiftly for those small design fixes done real fast. And I have got some ripper, and I mean ripper interviews coming up. A little bit hush-hush on exactly what. I'll keep you guessing. But I can assure you that you have reason to be excited. Enough. I'm Timbo Reid, and you have been smart enough to tune in to the world's #1 small business marketing show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show.